Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of the Legal Beagle podcast. Apps. Apps have taken over our lives. Apps are fun. Apps are entertaining. Apps are a resource. And apps can keep us safe. And I am here with the founder of TurnSignl, Jazz Hampton. TurnSignl is a new app that Jazz has launched to help us in a time of need. And I'm going to let Jazz explain more about what TurnSignl does. But when I say it's helpful in a time of need, it's helpful in a situation that we're all more hyper aware of over the last, I would say, year or two, and more cautious when we interact with police agencies. And so TurnSignl is our solution to that problem. Jazz, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It was a great introduction. That's a great summary, and I'm happy to be here and kind of share what the work that we're doing here as a team and let everyone know. But my name is Jazz Hampton. I'm an attorney. I'm a recovering litigator, I like to say. So I spent the last 6 years practicing civil litigation at a national firm, also teaching a class here at one of our law schools in the state of Minnesota, Mitchell-Hamlin School of Law. But I left that in the partner track, which I would have made in the next year and a half, and I left the law firm practice that I was, or in the adjunct professor position that I was doing full time to do TurnSignl with all of my time and with my co-founders. And now we're up to a team of just about 10 folks full time, and we're growing. We're live in Minnesota and Georgia right now, with more states to come. So we're excited about the progress we've already made in just a short year.
So tell me about TurnSignl in a nutshell. What is the app and how does it help us?
Yeah, so TurnSignl is an app that you have on your phone like any other app, like Instagram or Facebook or all of the like. However, it's a really clean and simple user interface. And when you open the app, you just press one button when you're being pulled over or when you're in an accident. And that one button instantly starts recording with the front-facing camera of your phone, no matter what device you're using, Android or an Apple device. It records with that front-facing camera and then instantly starts a video conference with an attorney live 24/7, 365. We have stables of attorneys that are there and willing to answer calls for drivers in their time of need, especially here in Minnesota, which everyone knows has become the epicenter of a call for social change and a yearning for some equity in the legal and criminal justice system. And so we're here for those folks and for folks who are in those car accidents. The greatest example is we had a call recently at 1:37 in the morning here in the state of Minnesota. The driver pressed it, and the attorney answered the call and was there with the driver at 1:37 in the morning before the officer was even at their window. Protected their rights during that interaction. Consent to the searching the car wasn't given. The driver had concerns about whether or not they'd be returning to jail, as they had been incarcerated previously. At the end of that call at 1:37 in the morning, not only did the driver have the opportunity to drive home safe, they really thanked us and the platform afterwards. We have a 15-question survey, and the last question was, how did TurnSignl make you feel this day? What else should we know? And they said, it's a vital part of the interaction, at least at the onset, with the criminal justice system, and they know it'd be really important for many people moving forward. So we're thrilled to have those testimonials, even when the call goes out at 1:37 in the morning.
I love that. I love that you use the word equity. I recently had a guest from Axon. They created the Taser originally and now ventured into all sorts of different products for our police agencies. And one of those is the body-worn cameras. And they talk about the idea of creating transparency. But I like the word equity a little bit more. And I like that TurnSignl almost gives the user of that application their own body-worn camera in a way, right? With some guidance and some help from someone that's trained in the law to protect those rights of individuals that may find themselves in those situations. Have you found pushback from the police or the users in terms of, hey, I don't want this app on. I pulled you over for, let's just say it's a traffic stop. I pulled you over for a traffic stop and you have this app. It's like, who's this person on the app? Well, that's my attorney. Well, you need to shut off your phone. Have you engaged? Have you faced that? How do you deal with that? What is the protocol if that happens?
Oh, that's a great question. It brings in so many great parts of TurnSignl. So I feel like that was T-ball. So our mission is simple and it's three-pronged: to protect driver civil rights, to de-escalate roadside interactions and to ensure both drivers and law enforcement return home safe at the end of every day. And that last part is important because what we do is go out and talk to law enforcement agencies before we're live in any state or market. So in Minnesota, we talked to over 20 police officers, several chiefs of police, all the way down to boots on the ground police officers in St. Paul, like people like Officer Nate. And what we're doing in that conversation is saying, hey, when you see a TurnSignl bumper sticker or window decal, I want you to feel safer approaching that car than you do in any other interaction you have. It's recorded and there's an attorney on the phone. You're safe here, right? And that is the first step in that de-escalation process between the driver and the law enforcement officer. And the next part we always talk about is every attorney on our platform, they reach out to us, they say, hey, we'd love to not only do some great marketing by talking about working with a great organization like TurnSignl, but we also want to be a part of the solution and be here in people's time of need from an equity viewpoint. They have to go through de-escalation training before they can even come onto the platform that's provided by a third-party organization. Again, living out that mission of what we're really trying to do. And I think lawyers know that de-escalation, a lot of it is for your own person that you're talking to, that potential client, right? Hey, don't worry. I know you've been pulled over 40 times in the last 2 months. It's frustrating. Let's take care of this situation here, right? And it already came to light in the state of Minnesota during a pullover. The officer said, can you turn off your phone? And the driver said, oh, I'm using TurnSignl. And the attorney said, hi, I'm an attorney from TurnSignl. Have you heard of our service? And the officer looked at the camera and said, okay, you can leave it on then. And that's exactly what we want to happen by fostering I don't need law enforcement to go on MSNBC and say TurnSignl is the greatest thing in the world. But internally, I hope, and what we ask them to do is to really build a culture of, hey, they aren't adversarial. The body cams aren't adversarial. They're just here to document what's happening and to make sure everything happens as the law says it should. But at the end of every day, that people's safety is paramount, and that's what we're really looking to do before anything else.
I love that. I love the idea of de-escalation, but I also love that third prong of your explanation, which is, look, we want officers to be safe as well. Let's engage in this practice and this application to make that experience a better experience and not a escalated experience that gets out of control, right? And it sounds like that you guys, one of your tenets or your mission as a company is to make sure that we de-escalate the interaction so that people do return home safely, but also officers as well. It doesn't sound like this is an I gotcha type app, like, hey, we're going to catch people in the act of doing improper behavior and then look, we're going to exploit it to the world. This is, let's keep people honest and let's put people in a situation where those interactions can happen the way they need to happen, but there's also protection on both sides of the table. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, it's a really, really well said. It's not a gotcha app. We say it a lot. We always say it's an app to bridge the gap. That's actually how we refer to it, because I always say my brother graduated from a law enforcement program here in Minnesota, right? We know folks in law enforcement. We know that there's a kind of a divide that needs to be bridged, and that's what we're hoping to do. There is no gotcha if it's just, we don't consent to the search. Okay, then it's not going to be done, or it will be done, and then we'll take care of it on the back end because you have an attorney there and you have a resource, which a lot of folks don't have. You have a resource that now you can use, and that speaks a lot to our user base. Our user base is diversified, and we're excited about what the user base looks like and who we're attracting as users from the driver perspective as well.
So let's say someone's watching this podcast and they want to be a user of TurnSignl. And their vision is, look, if I ever am in an accident, I want to have protection immediately and make sure that I do the right things, because there's a lot of bad information out there about what to do right after an accident. How can TurnSignl help that person?
Yeah, so if you download TurnSignl and you look at the face, and I'm sure people can go on the website or we can share screenshots here. If you look at the user interface of our app, there's two buttons. It says, I've been in an accident and I've been pulled over. And the system in our backend is bifurcated. So when you hit the button, it calls two different groups of attorneys, right? And so then when you are in an accident, you hit that button, it calls them, and that attorney is specialized in personal injury law, and they know exactly what you should be doing. And they're from the state that you are in. Right, so it's not a personal injury attorney from California answering a Minnesota call. That's not how our system is set up. It's all localized, which is really exciting because you can also connect with someone who can help you in the future should you need it. And that's one thing we always say. We talk about our personas, the people that are using our app. People think of targeted Tony, which is the persona we give to a person of color that statistically has higher interaction with law enforcement, right? But then we also talk about protective Paul or protective Paula. that's a parent regardless of their race or ethnicity that says, hey, I have a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid that's out there driving, and I'm worried about them. I want to make sure that they are safe and have some protections when they're out there, whether it's an accident or a pullover. I know when I was in my first accident, when I was a teenager, the first thing I did was pick up the phone and call my dad. Hey, Dad, I'm in an accident. What am I supposed to be doing? Do I have to get their insurance? If I don't call the police, am I fleeing the scene of an accident? What should I do, right? And now we can not only put a person in the car with your loved one, but an attorney that knows what your loved one should be doing. So it's really important to really delineate that this is for more than just the initial iteration of the app that sprung out of the tragic deaths of George Floyd and Philando Castile here in our home state.
When you use the word bifurcation, you're a former attorney. You're recovering, Jazz. You'll eventually stop using words like bifurcation. That's the word.
Subsequently,
like, what does that mean? Let's say there's an attorney listening to this, and there are a lot of attorneys that listen to this podcast, and they just heard what you said, and they're like, I want to be one of the people that the app calls in the event someone's in need, and I want to be giving the legal advice and helping them. How do they get involved? Is there a way through the website that they can get involved?
Yeah. Any way that you think should be done or available, we made it. So you can go to our website and click a link and go directly and start speaking to one of our team members here. You could email info@TurnSignl.com. You could reach out to one of us directly, and we can connect you with Damien, who's doing a lot of that work onboarding the attorneys. He's a former Thomson Reuters guy, so he's familiar with a lot of the attorneys and the process. So reach out to us, go to the website, give us a call. We'll be happy to onboard you and let you know what you need to do in order to be an attorney on TurnSignl. But it's not an onerous process. I can appreciate billable hours and the need to not spend too much time doing non-billables. But we always talk about how this can not only be good for attorneys to do good work, do well by doing good, but the sheer return on the time, right? So it's on your phone, and if you have your phone on and you open the TurnSignl app, and you're an attorney, there's only one button on the screen, and it's just, I'm available. And if you're at your kid's soccer game and you don't want to answer calls, now you're not available, and you don't have to answer calls. Should the call come through, it doesn't come through just to the one attorney, it comes through to all of the attorneys. So you don't even have to feel pressure like I'm on call, it's Jazz's time to answer the calls because it's between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're reaching out to all of the attorneys, so you don't have to feel the pressure also. If you're mid-depo and you didn't say I'm not available, you can finish the process and not have to answer that call. So it's really low stakes, and a driver used TurnSignl, I think it was last month. Yeah, because it's December 9th now. Yeah, so last month. And when they used the app, they talked to the attorney, and that attorney was retained on a subsequent and different matter, a criminal attorney. That attorney, one client that they received from this makes it worth all of the while of all the times it was just sitting in their pocket while they were watching the Vikings lose on a Sunday, right? So it doesn't really matter what you're doing, because you can always be available without any kind of extra stress.
So how do you get involved in this project? What makes you walk away from the practice of law and say, this is something that I want to do, and I'm going to put everything I have behind it and really launch this app and hope to take it nationwide?
Yeah, so myself and my two other co-founders, Andre and Mike, so we're three Black men from the Twin Cities. And what we always say is they grew up in St. Paul. They've known each other since they were 4 years old. I've known them for the last 15 years. We went to college together as well. They both went and got their MBAs. One is a finance MBA, one's an organizational MBA, operations organizational work, accounting background, marketing background. I'm a lawyer. My undergrad is in computer science, information systems. We had like all of these pieces that could come together to be a part of the solution that started here in our hometown. And they grew up with the Castile family, playing sports with that family, right? They grew up in that community. Then we see George Floyd happen again here in our home state, and we're saying, hey, there's a critical mass of awareness around this issue and the disparities and inequities in how the criminal justice system touches our community. And if there's awareness and no one's building a solution, why aren't we? Because we, education-wise, experience-wise, we're set up to do it. And so we all left our job. Mike left Sony Electronics, he's in their enterprise sales division. Dre left a credit union that he was building up the finance group for to start this. But, and I will say all of our, wives and significant others allowed us to do it as well. My wife was pregnant with our third. So we have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and she was pregnant with our third. And I was like, hey, it's a pandemic and you're pregnant. Can I quit my job? Start a startup. But so with that support, 5% of attorneys are Black. And I think seeing that issue as a Black attorney, I was like, well, why aren't I part of the solution? Why am I just out here defending Fortune 500 companies in their slip and falls and in their product liability cases when I can be doing something really meaningful with my law degree as well? So it was a easy choice for me once my wife was on board, at least.
Sure. So how do you roll this out nationwide? If someone's in California and they want to use this app and they want to be involved, whether they're on the end user side or they're an attorney that wants to be involved to help, when is it coming? How is that process going to play out from your standpoint?
Yeah, so we're working to partner with as many attorneys as possible. If we partner with a giant law firm that can cover, all of the states or a good amount of them, then we're live in that state. The analogy I always use is we're like T-Mobile, and I just have to go and stand up the cell phone tower, which is the attorneys. Once we went to Georgia and met with the attorneys and onboarded them all, now the cell phone tower is up, and I just open my computer and I type a few words, and Georgia's live, and anyone can download it and use the app then. So that's what we mean when we say we're live in Minnesota and Georgia. If you download the app in California right now, it'd say, hey, we're going to be there soon. We look forward to serving you. But what we're doing right now is actively talking to lawyers in many states so that we can stand up those cell phone towers simultaneously. So right now, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and California are on the more immediate roadmap of places we hope to open up here within the next 30 to 60 days. We're also looking at Texas and Arizona as well. There's a lot of different opportunities. And the one thing I guess I haven't said is we're partnering with businesses. So people think of our drivers as maybe folks from the inner city or folks who have higher interaction with law enforcement. But what else we're doing is partnering with businesses to say, hey, you provide pet insurance and dental insurance to your employees. I also want you to provide TurnSignl as a benefit so your employees feel safe driving to or from work with their kids at a basketball tournament on the weekend. So iHeartRadio is a great example. If you live in Minnesota and you work at iHeartRadio, you get TurnSignl for free as a benefit for them being your employer. We're doing that with many businesses, which also, again, diversifies kind of who the users are on our app and what the landscape of the entire platform looks like. And so we're excited for businesses to do that. We actually just partnered with Blue Cross Blue Shield on a large initiative as well. So exciting things coming from the user standpoint as well.
Sounds like it. That's great. So how did you come up with the name TurnSignl?
Yeah, the little the catchphrase has always been, a signal for change. And we know that, at least at the onset, we're confining TurnSignl to a vehicle because anything outside of it the facts and the law get screwy quick, right? So we want it to be within a car, signal for change. We wanted to really denote that we're telegraphing what's happening. We want everyone to know what's happening and everything to be out in front, whether it's the interaction with the law enforcement officer or an accident. And so we're signaling what our intentions are and what we're trying to do, which is to change the landscape of these interactions and to make them safer.
When I think about the tragedy of George Floyd, let's say that situation occurs again and someone's not in a vehicle, but they have TurnSignl on their phone and they're walking down the sidewalk and the police approach them. Can they use it in that same way? I know it sounds like it's intended, or maybe the idea is that it would be for people that are involved in traffic stops or auto accident cases, but could they use it if they're just walking on the sidewalk and they get approached and they just feel like, hey, I want to have an extra layer of protection here. I want to de-escalate, to use your word. I want equity, to use your word. Yeah. Can they use it in that situation? Could it be used in that situation, or how does that factor into this?
Yeah, so as TurnSignl is set up today, we encourage everyone just to use it in a vehicle, but that doesn't mean we don't think that those folks are going to use it outside of a vehicle, right? So all the attorneys are trained on how to interact with those, or how to help with those interactions as well, how to maybe let them know that is the intended use, or to deal with them on an attorney level for whatever situation they're in. But outwardly, we always say, we appreciate using TurnSignl just within the vehicle. There's many opportunities to go beyond to pedestrian solution. Something we have to talk about when we go to places like New York, where people walk a lot more than drive, right? But all of those are good things to come. TurnSignl won't be limited to the car forever, is I guess how I'll put it. So be patient.
Be patient. It's coming. It'll evolve, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Do you guys envision these states that you mentioned earlier, the onboarding of these states within the next 12 months, 18 months, 24 months? What's the plan for those that are interested in it coming to their state, but they maybe weren't listed in the states that you named? What's your vision for how long it may take to get this nationwide?
Yeah, our ambitious goal is always to get it nationwide by the end of 2022. But the funny thing is, nationwide could happen in a month or it could happen over the course of 16 months. Because if it's one of these unbelievable partners that people who join things like the Anti-Racist Law Firm Alliance or some of these organizations, and we get a big law firm that says, hey, we can come in and turn on these 8 states because we have 200 PI attorneys or 100 criminal attorneys. Then it goes like this. So we're looking to make those partnerships, and those are really important to us. But if we keep doing it the way we've started so far, and with the organic growth that we're doing, we think it'll be a state-by-state rollout, kind of regions, again, with DC, Maryland, and Virginia. But end of 2022 into 2023 is when we want to be nationwide to be able to provide TurnSignl to the entire country. I want TurnSignl to be ubiquitous in the sense of, oh, I went to the bar last night and I had a few drinks and I Ubered home. Hey, I was driving the other day. I got pulled over and I used TurnSignl. I want it to be ubiquitous on that level, and I want to make sure that people know everywhere what we're doing, and that takes all 50 states. So.
I love that because there's a lot of firms that I know, bigger firms, much bigger than my firm, that have applications that they want people to put on their phone so that they can call them in the event of an accident, personal injury attorneys. I've never seen an app like this where it connects you with the live attorney and that person's there to help you, guide you through that situation, whether it's a traffic stop, maybe in the criminal context, a civil stop, or an auto accident case. I've never seen anything like this. So I think you're onto something where people that are looking for more transparency, again, I'll go back to your words, looking for more equity, looking for an opportunity to say, it needs to be, I need help and it needs to be recorded and I need to have someone else guiding me through this process. I think that you guys are on the cutting edge of allowing that sort of interaction to become the commonplace and become norm. And that's what it sounds like you're looking for.
For sure, and I think that's especially true in the car accident piece. So many folks who don't know lawyers firsthand. I never knew any lawyer before I went to law school. Who don't know a lawyer, who don't have one to call, who are weary of someone on a billboard. Right? If they're in that situation, they're in an accident, they often just don't call someone and are losing out on an opportunity to really seek justice within that situation. Now that you have one on the phone, it's an untapped market for especially PI attorneys in that portion of the conversation to say, hey, not only would I not have reached this person, no attorney would have reached this person. And now I can be there for them in this instant. And if you're there helping them in their time of need, our conversion rate says they're going to want to work with you in the future as well, right? And that can be a client for you moving forward that no one would have had had they not had TurnSignl on their phone.
Does the attorney-client relationship begin at the point of that interaction? Meaning, let's use the auto accident case. I turn on TurnSignl. I was in a crash, and an attorney pops up, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Help guide me through the situation. Is there an attorney-client relationship formed at that point, and some of the stuff discussed protected and confidential, or how does that work within the application?
Yeah, I think any lawyer would say it depends, but from TurnSignl's point of view, this isn't a consult just like anything else. If someone was in an accident at 1:00 and went home and started calling attorneys in their Rolodex saying, "Hey, this is the incident. What should I be doing?" and the attorney would give them guidance and saying, "If you need help or if you'd like to retain me, let me know." That was a consult. This is just an on-the-scene consult. And that's what we really view it as does the law in Minnesota. And also with any of these, even in the criminal stance, the belief is when you're having that initial consult, that's still protected under the rules of professional responsibility from a privilege standpoint, even consultations. People wouldn't be comfortable being honest during a consultation if they didn't know that it would be protected, even if they didn't decide to retain that attorney. So that's the way the law is set up in a really I personally believe law isn't always set up well, but the way that is structured, hey, let me be honest about what I'm going through or what has happened to me. Vet whether or not I want to work with you and see what kind of guidance you would give, and then I can decide if I would retain you subsequently. Is a really good way to protect drivers in this sense. and make sure they're able to get some equity with their access to legal counsel.
Is that recording, or excuse me, is that interaction recorded the minute that the attorney and the user engage through the application? Is it being recorded or is it not being recorded?
The recording with the front-facing camera actually starts the second you press the button, so it doesn't even wait on the attorney to arrive. That's one of the most important things. We can start that video recording right away before the attorney's even on the phone.
I can't wait for you guys to start getting subpoenas from defense attorneys who say, "I want that video," and then you got to deal with that.
Well, that's my favorite thing about TurnSignl is the video is it stores live in the moment to the cloud. So let's say you're recording, your phone dies, it's saved in the cloud. Let's say your phone is broken and lost, saves in the cloud. You always have access to that video as the driver, and you can go to the cloud, pull it down onto your own personal device or onto a different device. That driver has that access and autonomy over the video. TurnSignl doesn't have access to the video. The lawyer doesn't have access to the video. The employer that provided TurnSignl to that employee doesn't have access to that video. No one has access to the video other than the driver.
Oh, wow. How long is it stored? Do you know?
I believe I'd have to confirm, but I think it's 30 or 60 days is our document retention policy, to speak as a lawyer. And then after that, but they can pull it down at any time. So if it's in the cloud, you can pull it down at any time, which gives you the opportunity to say, hey, maybe this is something I want to save for my records. I'll go and pull it down from the cloud. We give you a push notification letting you know it's available to go pull down. So,
well, the reason I asked that question is not for understanding of how long it's retained so that people have access to it. It's more from a data storage standpoint on your end. I didn't realize this when I was talking to that guest from Axon, because all the body cam footage is uploaded into a database, a cloud stored database through evidence.com, which is their product. The amount of data they store is absurd. It's more, they said they have more data than Netflix has volume of files for all the videos that we watch on Netflix. So think about that for a minute. And I can envision, I'm glad it's a short retention, to be honest, Jazz, because I can envision a situation when you guys are nationwide, that is a lot of data being uploaded into your cloud. You may have a storage issue that you guys get to deal with down the road.
Yeah, that's people always ask like, "Oh, is TurnSignl free?" And I say no, because the storage isn't.
Yeah, because the storage is not free.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's true. The data storage world is crazy in the prices that it can reach. But it's really valuable because we don't want this just to be on someone's phone that can be lost or damaged and not be available to them in the time of need. So we made sure that the cloud enablement was a part of our platform.
So I'm going to ask a question that's a little off script, but you touched on it earlier, and I'm just now curious to get your thoughts. Why are there so few African American attorneys?
Yeah, I think when you grow up, you want to be what you see others doing. I remember when I went to law school, everyone's parents were lawyers, which is wild to me now as a lawyer, because I'm like, why would you ever let your kid do this? But
no doubt.
so many of their parents were lawyers because you are what you see reflected in your community. I think that's one of the difficulties. There's not enough representation, so it's kind of a never-ending cycle in that sense. You don't see other Black lawyers doing it. And I think the progress through education is tough. Minnesota is actually the second worst in the entire country for graduation disparities between white and Black students in high school, right? And so if that's starting in high school, you got another 2 sets of school to get through as well, right? And so if your education hurts early, there's no chance of getting there later. California uses when they were building prisons and they're projecting how many beds, one of the factors they looked to wasn't crime, or maybe I should say along with crime and what was happening, was the education or the reading scores of elementary and middle school students to project how many beds they would need for a prison, right? There's a direct correlation. And that's to go to prison, let alone to not be able to go on to a great career like something in law. It's a long journey. I mean, but I started early. I graduated law school at 23 or 24 years old. I went straight through because I knew how long the journey was, and because I had a lot of folks encouraging me to do it. But I just think that a lot of my work that I do in community here in Minnesota is I'm on a board of trustees at my high school to try to get those kids cycling through. I'm on the cultural awareness committee there, trying to get these kids to graduate and go to college and beyond. A lot of the work is done early on in the education process, and the lack of representation, it's tough. Everyone sees basketball players and people on TV and actors. They don't see lawyers. It's it's a long game, right? You don't start making good money until you're into your mid-20s, when you can be a manager at a local store and maybe make decent money. Kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs kind of viewpoint there, but I digress.
No, it's great. It's great. It's a great point. I hope young men and women see what you and your partners are doing and realize there are other ways to become successful or to build a path towards change and progress, and appreciate that it's not just monkey see, monkey do, which is what I agree. I grew up really impoverished, and you're right. All my friends, all my families, they went to work for convenience stores in the neighborhood.
Yep.
And it was this vicious cycle of, I saw what others were doing, and it would have been very easy to fall into that. I don't want to say this for sure, so someone from my high school don't call and yell at me, but I think I may be the only attorney from my high school that I even know of. I mean, it just doesn't happen. It was a very poor neighborhood, very poor economy. It was very easy to go work in a Walmart as opposed to working your way towards something else and trying to effectuate change that way. So I think that's spot on. Your analysis of, you become what you see growing up, and it's easy to fall into traps doing that, regardless of your ethnicity. But I think it's very apparent within the African American community, and I wondered that, because I looked around. I went to Arizona State University for law school. I looked around, and I think you're probably maybe 5 to 10 African American students alongside the hundreds of Caucasian students that were there.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right.
Yeah, and I think it's true, but it's also kind of, if you're coming from an impoverished area and you can see an opportunity to get a decent income, it's a lot easier to grab that than stay the long haul. It's maybe a poor analogy, but it's like, that's why I don't blame a D1 basketball player at Duke to go to the NBA right away. It's like, well, yeah, you don't want to live in poverty anymore, and you have an opportunity to go make a lot of money quickly by leaving now, rather than staying and going through your education process. I don't blame you, because you don't want to live in poverty for another 3 years to get a degree, when you have an opportunity to go make that money now. It's really hard to say, hey, I know your family's struggling and you could go work at this job and make a decent income as a UPS driver, or a post office, a delivery person, as my dad was for the post office, right? You can go do that work and make decent money and take care of your family now, rather than studying for another 7 years to get there later, right? So, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jazz, you're intelligent, you're insightful, and I love the passion you have to push this product, TurnSignl, forward. And I hope that when you're nationwide and I'm knocking on your door for a follow-up podcast, and you're the size of Uber, you're not like, who? I don't know that. I don't have time for that guy. No, that was when we were starting and I needed help promoting the brand. But before I let you go, I ask everyone what I do. I call it the Fast Five. These are 5 unrelated questions to what we've been talking about. Would you indulge me and answer these 5 fun questions?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Okay, first question. Do you prefer to make a right or left turn?
Right. Get it done with quick.
I had to ask because of TurnSignl, just the name, right? Favorite place in the world you've visited?
I speak French, and I went to Nice, France. Absolutely beautiful. That's where I went with my wife on my honeymoon. It's my favorite place in the world.
Are you fluent in French?
Je parle français un petit peu, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, that's as fluent as you can become. I mean, that's not having it every day in your back pocket where you're actually speaking it. That's really cool. Do you intend to teach the kids a little bit?
I try to give them the annoying commands in it, like asseyez-vous, like sit down, like ouvrez la fenêtre or la porte, like open the door, close the window. I try to do that as much as possible, but it's not sticking so much. I just, to be frank, I just went to French because I had a crush on the girl that was in that class, and then I just stayed in it for like 7 years. So
yeah, the long play. You're into the long play,
right? Yeah, exactly.
This is kind of a darker question, but if there was a final meal on Earth, what is your final meal?
Oh, I served at Applebee's for 5 years, and it would be the app sampler from Applebee's.
No, are you serious?
100%. It's kind of like what's the show where the guy ate McDonald's every day forever and ever and kind of got addicted to it?
Super Size Me, yeah.
Yes, there was a Super Size Me effect with working there, where I'd eat the mott sticks, the spinach and artichoke dip, the buffalo wings so much, where I was like almost addicted to it. And I still, my wife's like, where should we go? Should we go to this new like 5-star nice restaurant? I'm like, no, let's go get an app sampler at Applebee's with a triple chocolate meltdown to end it, right? So
That is so funny. It reminds me of that country song that's out right now where the guy's talking about you fancy like Applebee's. You truly
Yeah.
are jazz fancy like Applebee's.
100%. My wife gets annoyed about it.
I love it. That keeps you real. I love that.
Yeah.
So, fourth question: if you could have a conversation with anyone, a dead or alive, who is it and why?
God, I think it would be a lawyer. I think it would be maybe Thurgood Marshall. I think there's, I think there's people who can transcend the barriers and the difficulties of their time in a way that's hard to fathom and understand. It's like, it's hard enough, 5%, like we just said, it's hard enough for people of color to become lawyers. And back then it's like, how? So I think that would be mine. Because it'd have to be someone who's not around, because I can chase down someone who's alive. I can still try to hit them up on Twitter and see if they'll have a conversation with me.
That's true. Did you see the movie they did more recently with Thurgood Marshall? It was with the actor who passed away with cancer. I forgot his name.
Yeah. Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, he did such an incredible job. I love that movie. I thought it was so well done.
So good.
There's movies like that I think, in a day and age where kids aren't going to read books anymore in high school and it's really hard. Those are movies you need to be showing. Those are movies that are just good movies that talk about history, that help kids understand the path that some of these people had to walk down in order to get where they went in life. And I think that's one of them. I loved it. I thought it was fantastically done.
Just like I'm going to kick myself for forgetting his name, the guy from Just Mercy, with the
Michael B. Jordan. He was incredible.
But with the person he was portraying.
The actual lawyer who's still practicing today.
Yeah. So that's to the DM point. I've tried to reach out to that organization. If someone that's listening to this podcast, of the hundreds of thousands of listeners you have every time you post one, if someone knows them, let them know that TurnSignl is begging to go down and talk to them. I've reached out, but I'm still trying because he's alive. So I want to meet him. He's a real inspiration. I loved that movie.
What an incredible story.
Documentary about him. Delta has the documentary. I watch it like every time I'm on the plane. So.
Yeah, so good. So good. All right, final question. Do you have any hidden talents?
Man, I already used French. I feel like that would have been it. I am also I ride motorcycles. I enjoy riding a motorcycle. So that's
what kind of motorcycles?
My dad's a big like Harley Davidson guy. So I'm like one of those old like 60-year-old black guys that's like, no like Suzuki for me. Give me a big ape hanger Harley Davidson. I have a Road King, a 1995 Road King is what I drive now. So I love riding motorcycles. I played college football, played rugby, speak French.
I've been asked this because I've traveled all over the world, and I really fell in love with rugby when I was down in Australia.
Oh yeah.
Are rugby players tougher than football players, or are football players tougher than rugby players? American football. So for those that are watching, I think football is soccer. I meant American football.
I think that rugby players are tougher, and it's that no pads is a thing, and you hit in a different way to not injure yourself and all of that. But a lot of the rugby players I met were former football players who just had a screw loose a little bit, and the defensive linemen are running around at full speed with the running backs in this analogy in rugby, right? And you can get hit by them pretty good, and then they can then run you over when they have the ball. So there's not a lot of JJ Watt or Clowney sized guys running the ball, but that's everyone in rugby. So I think those guys are pretty tough.
What's it called when they build that like almost tower of people and the ball's in the middle? What's that called? Is that a scrum?
A
scrum. That is a scrum. Okay, I didn't know if it was called a scrum. That thing is the coolest thing to watch. If you've never seen that, you got to go see that once in your life. It's unbelievable.
And it's way more choreographed and strategic than it looks. It looks like just a whole bunch of guys locking shoulders and going against each other. Really strategic in how they do it. So it was a lot of fun. Rugby guys, and they always say that rugby was a group where you drank and then you also played rugby on the side. So that's what it felt like sometimes. So
sounds like a good sport.
Yeah, a lot of beer and whiskey in those days for me. So
yeah. Jazz Hampton, thank you for joining the Legal Beagle podcast. We're going to put all the contact information up on the screen for those that want to get a hold of TurnSignl, whether it's on the user side or the attorney side. If you are a larger firm in a state that is looking to bring this app forward, get in touch with Jazz and his team, because it sounds like They are ready to go. They just need to stand it up in states where they have the support so they can get people using this app. I can't wait to see the growth of this company. You're an inspiration, Jazz. Thank you for being a guest.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to part 2 when we're in all 50 states. You're the first call.
Take care, bud.
All right, we'll see you.